Well, I'm very pleased to be part of this assembly. And what a coincidence, you know, this Monday, after I finish my seminar, one of my students, I think his name is Travis, approached me and said, "Professor, I want to ask you something." And I said, "What?" I said, "Well, you know, I am graduating from college this academic year. I already have a nice job, at least for 2 years at the Goldman Sachs. But you know what, my thing is really public service. So I want your advice, Professor. If my aspiration is to be, you know, to serve, should I go, after I do my work at Goldman Sachs for 2 years, should I go to graduate school?" That was his question. And, well, I said, well, that's a very tough question. You know, it's very personal. Of course, inside me, I was thinking, why is he asking me this? And I thought first, rather cynically, well, maybe he's asking me because nowadays, at least some politicians do make a big effort to represent themselves as uneducated or even ignorant. So maybe my student is asking me, you know, whether if he is interested in being in public service, a politician going for graduate school will not be too much. And he knows that I have a PhD from this university, and I happen to be, at some part of my life, you know, a public servant, a politician, and they say in my country that a very successful one. So maybe that's why he's asking me about that. And in a few seconds, he really made me think about, you know, how serious his question was, and made me go back to my own experience, how I came here and what happened after I came here. And that also told me a lot about this place. The first time I came to New Haven, I came by bus from Boston in a Greyhound bus, stayed at the Duncan Hotel, where there were thousands of cockroaches in my room, by the way, but it was only $12, so who cared? And I came here because I had been told to come and talk to some professors. This was a few months before applying for admission. And I was introduced to a few professors. And in particular, one said, well, I can see that you are underprepared to come here. Your previous studies maybe are not enough. But I also see that there may be some aspects that will give you some opportunity to be admitted. So you should apply here. And he said, and maybe you will be accepted to other universities. So I want you to make a promise. If you are admitted to those other places, but if you are admitted here, promise me, it's your word, that you will come here. And I said, okay, of course. I would say, well, I said, okay, my promise. Well, he was right. I was very lucky to be admitted here and to a few other places. And of course, I had committed to come here, and I came here. The first thing that I really found out is that he was absolutely right. I was terribly underprepared to come here. And I don't know how I made it through the first semester. I think Rick Levin still teases me about my grades in the first semester. So badly prepared I was. But anyways, I survived the first semester and maybe did a little bit well afterwards, and eventually got my PhD here. But the reason why I got the PhD is because I finished my dissertation, but it was also an adventure. I had left after 4 years, went back to work at Mexico Central Bank, and I was sort of lazy about finishing, you know, being a natural, how you say, procrastinator. Hadn't finished my dissertation. One day, my senior advisor called me in Mexico and said, you know, Ernesto, I'm here in Mexico City. I want to invite you and Nilda to have dinner. I said, great, let's go and have dinner. We had nice dinner in the Zona Rosa in Mexico City. And after the dinner, he said, Ernesto, you haven't finished your dissertation, right? So, no, I haven't. I said, well, you know, it's very simple. This is the end of January, 1981. If you don't show up in New Haven with a full manuscript of your dissertation by April 30, you will stop being my friend, one of my favorite students, and I will make sure that you get all over the world very bad publicity. And this in front of my wife. Of course, I was here on April 30, and only because of that I was able to get a PhD here. Well, after that, I was catapulted into public service in Mexico, in interesting positions, culminating with being president of my country. And today I could ask and answer the question, did my education here made a difference? And not only to achieve those levels of responsibility that I had, but also on the way in which I conducted myself when I had those responsibilities. And the answer has to be definitely yes, on two accounts. I don't think I would have never had any opportunity to do what I was given the opportunity to do without the education that I received here. And second, if I ever took good decisions in those positions of responsibility, every one of them really had to do with the way in which I was educated at this great institution. And I say it not because, at least during my time, the emphasis were on teaching students about being leaders. In my view, I say it with all due respect, and that I think now that is very fashionable. I think that's wrong. That's crap. You don't come to a place like this to be taught how to be a leader. At least that was my experience when I was here. I have tried hard to remember whether I ever heard the word leader here, and I never heard that. But what I do remember is, for example, from my courses with great people like Professor Tobin, like Professor Diaz Alejandro, the character I was talking about before and after I came to this place, like Professor Gas Ranis is still around, like Professor Brainerd, all of them. Well, what I learned from them was first and foremost that whoever wanted to study economics was because that person should be interested in addressing human problems. Of course, we were asked to be rigorous, to know mathematics, to know economic theory, but at the end of the day, we have to have the idea that our discipline was first and foremost to serve people. It was a human discipline, addressing human problems. Then I also learned several things. The first one was learn to wonder, is to say learn to question, learn to be critic. I also learned to learn. That was very important. And learn to think was also important. But fundamentally, I think, and this was the biggest example I received from my mentors, rather than learn to be a leader, that was implicit in the message, learn to serve. And that, I think, really marked the way I saw my professional and my political life. And if only for that, I have always been grateful to this great place. Then finally, and this is very important, if I hadn't earned a PhD here, I wouldn't be here today. Why? Because actually, thanks for having come here, I can give proof rather than sit down and writing self-serving memoirs. Actually, for some of us, there is life after the presidency. And what a better life than being a professor at Yale University. Thank you.